Well, Bethesda finally released the Shattered Space DLC for Starfield. For Skyrim in 2011, they released Dragonborn, Heartfire, and Dawnguard, all within just 9 months. But here we are in 2024, and it took Bethesda over 1 year to make this new installment. So, how was it? Well, the main quest takes approximately 4 to 6 hours. It only has 11 side quests, which take a little less time. There's no new weapons, no new companions, no new mechanics, no new skill trees, and even very little to no new enemy types. The reviews were rough to say the least. And it was $30. Dragonborn was $20. So it would appear Bethesda's price has gone up, but the quality continues to drop. Some argue that Starfield is Bethesda's weakest game, and now Shattered Space can be added as their weakest DLC. Recently, Bethesda has been struggling. Everything seems to be getting worse, and fans are losing trust. Starfield received a lot of criticism, but this DLC was Bethesda's chance to step up and prove us wrong. It did not. Even Mr. Maddie Plays, who got an interview with Todd Howard, said it was a bad expansion and he was upset. If the person who interviewed Todd Howard says that, then you know it's rough. But this new DLC says so much more about the current Bethesda than first meets the eye. Lead director Emil Pagliarulo believes Bethesda are the kings of DLC. In a recent article with Games Radar, he said, "Any Bethesda developer who has been around since the Horse Armor days knows that by this point, if we understand one thing, it's DLC. That's not to say we're on autopilot and don't think about it now. It means we still think about it and have probably thought about it more than any other studio since those early days. And I think the result of all that contemplating is that we have a pretty good handle on how to plug new content into our huge games." So he's saying that they know what they're doing, have always released top DLC and always will. Well, in this video, I'm going to explain why that is no longer the case and why Bethesda have not just fallen off in terms of their games, but now also in the DLC market, which has shifted since the days of old. Anyway, let's get into it. Quick side note, as always, thank you for all your support. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Anyway, back to the video. So, first of all, I want to talk about the history of DLC. So let's start with Oblivion, right? Oblivion was a giant open world game introduced by Bethesda in 2006. The game scored incredibly well and is considered one of the best RPGs of all time. After the success of the game, Bethesda decided to release DLC. The first major DLC was Shivering Isles. The main story for this DLC took approximately 10.5 hours to complete. It also came with a unique giant open world with side quests and exploration. If you really wanted to see everything, this DLC would take approximately 40 hours of time. Not bad for $30. Then they released Knights of the Nine DLC. This was a shorter DLC and only offered 11.5 hours of content, but the price dropped to reflect this. These two DLCs came out 8 months apart. Both DLCs scored well at 80% plus, then came Fallout 3 in 2008. Between January of 2009 and August of 2009, Bethesda released 5 DLCs. Each DLC took approximately 5 or so hours to complete, but to make up for the small content, it only cost $9.99. So 5 expansions in 8 months, $10 each. It was a fair trade and people enjoyed them. Skyrim then came out in 2011 and it had 3 expansions. Hearthfire was a small quality of life expansion that allowed you to build your own home, raise a family, adopt children, and customize your property. It was a nice addition, but it only cost $5 as a result. Then Dawnguard had 20 hours worth of gameplay, and Dragonborn had its own handcrafted map and 23 or so hours of gameplay. Each of those were $20 respectively. Fallout 4 released in 2015 and had 6 DLCs, with Far Harbor widely considered the best of them all. It had its own map, own companion, new enemies, weapons, and a lot more, and was the most expensive DLC at $25. The other DLCs for Fallout 4 were again priced according to their value. But you see, Up until this point, Bethesda's DLCs were okay, but generally much smaller than a full game, with the average length of one of their DLCs being around 7 to 8 hours. It was a nice add-on, gave the players something to do, but was never considered more than a little feature to the main show. Then, in 2015, The Witcher 3 was released. It got rave reviews from everyone and won Game of the Year and even beat out Fallout 4. Then, on the 31st of May 2016, CD Projekt Red released the DLC for the game Blood and Wine for $19.99. This expansion, voted as one of the greatest DLCs of all time, had its own huge map expansion, 90 new quests, a purchasable home, new outfits, new weapons, and overall took almost 50 hours to see everything. It is often referred to as a whole other game. Just like that, CD Projekt Red changed the DLC game. No longer could DLCs just be mini add-ons, but they basically could be an additional game. People loved it, and it set the standard for what a player could expect when they download DLC, or a new expansion. Fast forward to 2024 and Elden Ring released their first DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree. It came with its own giant map and offered approximately 50 hours of new content. New weapons, new dungeons, new characters, new everything. Basically, a whole second game attached to the first. To reflect this, the price of the new DLC was $40, but it was fair. It gave you great value and scored very well across the board. The same year, CD Projekt Red offered Cyberpunk's first DLC, Phantom Liberty, for $30. Again, it offered an entirely new map, new quests, new characters, including Idris Elba, new skill trees, new cars, and much, much more. Overall, it offered 30 hours or more of content. Nowadays, we have seen DLCs go from little game add-ons to now whole games within themselves. We have seen the price go from $5 in 2011 to $30+ in 13 years, but the quality has reflected this. We understood. To be honest, Phantom Liberty, Shadow of the Erdtree, Blood and Wine, I think they were incredibly well priced for the amount of content we received. Most gamers understood that with better, longer DLCs, the price would go up directly as well. Everybody understands this, except Bethesda, it seems. So they dropped the Shattered Space, which took more than a year to develop. They told us up front that it would contain handcrafted content, so I thought, oh man, Bethesda's back, they got it, message received, but then I played it. The main story takes 4 to 6 hours. It's very one-dimensional and looks and plays exactly like the base game. The handcrafted open world still looks procedurally generated by its design, and so much of the handcrafted points of interest were craft ships or watchtowers that didn't really have any depth. There were 11 side quests only, which were bland and took approximately another 4 or 5 hours. It was full of bugs, no new companions, no new mechanics, no new skill trees, no new weapons, and no noteworthy new armor. So many YouTubers have said it feels more like cut content rather than an actual DLC. People were upset. Now, I will do the main review in another video, but I want to discuss why this upset me the most and shows how Bethesda have shifted. This DLC cost $30. It was not worth $30, and I'm generally upset that I paid for this DLC. I feel like I got ripped off. It was not what I expect from a DLC nowadays for $30. Now, if you've played Phantom Liberty or Shadow of the Erdtree, it's night and day. So Bethesda have missed that. They didn't see the quality of Phantom Liberty's stories and characters. They missed the giant open world in Blood and Wine. They missed the 103 new weapons in Shadow of the Erdtree. They missed what a $30 DLC is supposed to look like, what it's supposed to be. The only part they saw was the $30 price tag. How they can release Shattered Space and charge the same as those other games is beyond me. Have you played them? I would feel dirty knowing that Phantom Liberty was $30 and I was about to charge the same for this DLC if I was Bethesda. I've done videos showing how their game design has fallen behind the times, and now it shows that their DLC is also outdated. They still think a 4-hour main story DLC for $30 is good. I downloaded a free demo of Metaphor ReFantasio and that took longer. a free demo had more content. What I don't get is how Dragonborn came out in 2011, took half the time to make a Shattered Space, was a more polished DLC and had more content and was less expensive than this new DLC. Bethesda have somehow seen their DLC in games drop in quality, quantity, take longer to make than before, and yet increase the price as time has passed. How have they let this happen? And now, the part that really upset me the most. Starfield took a lot of hits. It got smashed online with negative reviews. It was an unfair fight with everybody beating down on the game and the studio. Starfield was and is a game way below the standards of today's games, and even compared to games the same studio made over 13 years ago. However, some Starfield fans exist. They have persevered, they have taken that negativity, and they have fought for Bethesda. I've received comments from them. They have defended the empty planets, the lackluster writing, the infinite loading screens. They have always stood by Bethesda. Those are true fans. So who is going to buy this new DLC? People who dislike Starfield? People who hate the game? Nope. It's going to be those same fans who stood by Starfield from day one. It's so telling of Bethesda that they make a DLC this week that offers so little, then charges a price tag of $30. And you know who's paid it? Those who stood by them. Those that swore Bethesda would come back strong. I mean, what a chance this was to support those fans. If they dropped the Phantom Liberty version for Starfield, those fans would be vindicated. Cyberpunk took flack for years, with players beating up on the game, making memes, laughing at those who still played it, but bit by bit, CD Projekt Red fixed the game, improved it, and then dropped one of the best DLCs of all time. It was a moment for day one Cyberpunk fans to say, "Ha, I told you so." This was Bethesda's chance to do that for Starfield, but they blew it. Listening to Mr. Maddie Plays giving his review is heartbreaking because you can hear how upset he is. He stood by Starfield, he stood up for Starfield, and now Bethesda released an incredibly weak, short DLC and charged $30 to experience it. He honestly looks defeated, resigned to the fact that the jig is up. He cannot defend Bethesda anymore. All those people who stood by Starfield, it shows Bethesda no longer sees them as dedicated loyal fans who deserve the world from Bethesda. They see them as dollar signs, who they want to squeeze every penny out of. Thanks for your unwavering support. Give me $30, play this 4 hours and then get back on with your life. We'll have another DLC in another year for $30. Have your wallets ready. I'm sorry if this video is a little nasty or if I'm getting worked up, but I'm getting tired of it. It's inexcusable. Bethesda were bought out by Microsoft and Starfield didn't work how they wanted to. It happens. I've made 30 plus videos and some were bad. I'll probably make another bad one day. Heck, it might be this video. But it's not about the mistakes you make, it's how you bounce back. Bethesda took a hit with Fallout 76. They released an unfinished game, alienated their core audience, and focused on squeezing every dollar via microtransactions that they could from the loyal fans who stayed. Starfield alienated even more of the fans, and here we are again. I don't care what staff have left, who's the director or writer or whatever. You don't need to be a gaming expert to know that this new DLC was unacceptable for the price tag that they charged. It was short, buggy, empty compared to DLCs coming out from other games. They knew this. They knew the reviews of Starfield and they knew that they had to bounce back. They knew their reputation was on the line. So they had two options. Option A, make the best DLC they could and get fans back on their side, charge a lower price or maybe even give it as part of Game Pass, show the fans that you still have heart and passion for the process of making games, show them that Bethesda is still in there somewhere, or the second option was to release a weak DLC which looks like cut content, invest minimal time into it, minimal effort, pump it out and charge full whack for it, knowing some fans will buy it anyway. Money over self-respect, and that's what they did. Look, I'm sorry if this video is too aggressive, but I really was upset with this DLC. You can talk about the engine, or the lack of good writing, or anything else, but none of that matters when I look at this DLC. Shattered Space was Bethesda doubling down on their way of working. They used to be about making the best games possible, providing endless amounts of content, and they put their fans' happiness above their bottom line. Now, they clearly have shifted gears into trying to do as little as possible, cutting corners using things like procedural generated worlds, radiant quest lines, and then charging the maximum for this experience. It is so devastating to see, especially when you consider Bethesda made Morrowind, Oblivion, Fallout 3 and Skyrim all within an 8-year window, and now it takes them a year to make this new DLC. It's really hard to watch, and as a huge fan of Bethesda in the past, making this video really hurt me to do. But enough is enough. What we have seen is Bethesda release worse DLC as time has passed, with less content, take longer to make the DLCs than before, and charge more than they ever have. They think they can charge the price of other games' DLC, like Elden Ring or Cyberpunk, because it's DLC. What they haven't figured out is that Bethesda's DLC is not what current gamers consider a good DLC. You can say gamers' expectations have gone up over time, and they have after the new DLCs that we've experienced, but Bethesda need to catch up and reevaluate what a $30 downloadable content is now. Emil may say that they are the masters of expansions, but I could name many other developers who are way ahead of them now. They may have been great at DLC in 2006 or 2011, but now, in 2024, they're actually one of the worst at it. In fact, that he still thinks this really says a lot about his arrogance, delusion, and lack of knowledge. It highlights big problems at Bethesda. A video for next week. Anyway, that's it for this one, but what do you guys think? Do you feel like I was too harsh? Did you play Shattered Space, and if so, what was your opinion? Do you think I'm completely wrong, or do you agree? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I'm Av Gaming, where we do video game analysis, identifying what makes great games great, and what could make good games great as well. Thanks for watching. Av out.